Everybody, this is Dave here with CoralVue, and I got a special guest with me today. This is Claude from Fauna Marin
Hi
in
guys.
Germany. And really want to just talk about ICP. ICP is something here that a lot of people are questioning now. They don't understand why there's so many different results from different companies when they get their results and why they're seeing these different results.
Yeah.
It's almost to the point where they don't know who to trust, or is this snake oil, or what's going on here? And if you can, give us a little lesson on ICP and how it works.
The start of the ICP was a little bit difficult because the machineries which were available were not built for such a complex material like seawater. Seawater is not salt water. Salt water is sodium chloride and water. That's it. Seawater is a mixture of many different minerals, elements, microelements, and they have an effect inside a laboratory machine. So that's why everybody who runs machine have to find their own method.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the method depends on which thing you want to test. And that's the main thing overall. The machines, all over the machines which are on the world, they are quite okay. They're good. At the end, you can say you can work with them. The problem now is not the machine. Some points is the machine, but the point is which method you use and how you focus on that, what you detect. So some companies in the world, they say, yeah, we try to do like natural seawater. The problem is now, in my opinion, this what we have here or there is all but not natural seawater. In natural seawater, we have very low element amounts which we cannot detect with the ICP OAS. What we have here is that we have a lot of organic compounds and we have way more iron in a sample or manganese as we have in natural seawater. So we need another method for this.
So you're saying there's a difference between aquarium water and natural seawater?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we never care about natural seawater because which benefit I have when I know how is the water in Hawaii?
Mm-hmm. How does that pertain to your aquarium water?
My problem is I need a proper water for the tanks and for the corals, which is now here,
yeah,
and which you maybe produce, which that's all.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this has nothing to do with natural sea salt, because when you evaporate seawater,
yeah,
you have a chemical reaction, and after that you cannot use the salt to dilute it again. So that's why we have to produce it synthetically. Some companies using also the marine water, but at the end we have to mix more elements, more stuff inside that we can create this environmental for our animals like we want to do there.
Yeah.
And some companies just do that now since more than 50 years, so it's well known. And the same happens a little bit now what happens some years ago. So they're producing sea salt. Now then coming magnesium tests on the market. And then everybody find out, oops, there's not that much magnesium in the salt for whatever reason. And then creating the pro salts. So somebody starting now with the ICP. He buy a machine, they try to fix it properly, and they go to a method which working with half diluting. So, because these machines have problems to work with all that kind of salt. A little bit an explanation is, if you detect fresh water, it's like searching a needle in a haystack.
Okay.
It's easy, because you have only one thing and all around is nothing on it. But when you want to analyze seawater, it's like to search a sand grain in a dune, the right one. Because we have that much amount of salt, and see how many salt you put in your aquarium. And from this now, I have to find out the millionth part of an element. And that makes it so difficult. So the next step was that we all had the same machine. So that was from Spectral, the blue machine. And the blue machine was not built for the seawater detection. You can use it, you take the method, but it had some issues. Our company starting very early, it's now 12 years ago around, and we go immediately to the undiluting method working. Other companies diluting for the half. And as soon as you need to dilute the sample, you have a big problem, because when you dilute it and you make a little bit of mistake, let me say 1-2% is not the exact right amount. Afterwards, the machine calculated up the mistake, because you have to double it or by 10. If you have an MS sample, you have the problem, you have to dilute it. Later then, after a few years of progress, and it was every year we thought, hey, okay, now it's good, now it's good. And in my company, we stopped after 1.5 years working with ICP. I stopped it because I had the same problem. We detect again, then we have ICs and HPLC machines. So we had 4 or 5 machines just at this age.
And seeing different results.
Yeah, for fluoride and nitrate and all the different stuff. So, and the biggest problem was that we cannot find them all the time. So, and we had a fight with the lab. So I go there, I was in my coral farm, because we are the only lab in the world who has a coral farm. So that every test what we do at the coral farm, and then I look on it, and I go to the lab and test around, and my emotions and my experience on the coral show me something different than what's standing in the paper.
Wow.
And we don't know why. Searching and had some fights, and then over the time I stopped it. I said, we need to have another concept. This is not possible how it works, because my stuff blaming me, you and your emotions. We have numbers. And I say, hey, but I see it on the coral.
You're watching corals. You're looking at the health of the animals.
It's not okay, and corals never lie. That's why these sentence comes now often from our side, that we say corals never lie.
Right.
So if a coral say it's okay, it's okay. The test can show whatever it wants. Then maybe it was a mistake during transport, taking the sample, whatever. Right. Sample mistakes can happen. So that's why it's so important to have another concept. And our concept now is that I divide it. We have 2 teams now who fight each other. The one is the lab team. These people have no aquarium. They're not allowed to have one. The only thing what they can do is to take a sample.
Okay.
And then we have the interpretation team. And that's our all experienced members who do aquarium keeping, coral farm taking over many, many years. So, and then we have a board, and the board states every time when I win, I get a number. And the team who loses have to pay the restaurant and the pizza the next time. So that we fight every month about it. And we still find mistakes today. And every year in the development, it's always is to go to the lab, to see in the aquarium, okay, what mistakes we have here. Because we have to learn this, to work with this environmental. There's no paper there how to test aquarium water.
Right.
We have to do that. That's why we go to the huge aquariums, because there we have very old aquariums. I don't go out in the sea to testing water in front of Australia. So for whatever reason, I want to know what is the difference in old aquarium and what we have to get, how to do our methods, our salts, our products, that we avoid that what happens in an old aquarium. So we turn it completely to the head.
Wow.
And I learned very fast that me, myself, I don't go to the machine. That's stupid, because you know it. It's Friday evening. Yep. You have to check the alkalinity. Your wife say, hey, we have an appointment. It's okay, 6 4. And then you go. And exactly on that way you work on the lab. So that's why we have a lab team, we have interpretation team, and that's why we can get the service that we always do the interpretation on the aquariums. Same like a doctor, when you take your blood test, not the lab talks with you, it talks the doctor to you. That's also why we have this certification program for the dealers, that we teach them and show them. Okay. The second step was then coming new machines on the market. So we put a machine which is not on paper that perfect as it could be. On papers, the old version is better for the trace elements. But the new version is way better for the alkali metals and the stability. So if you have the Spectra Blue nowadays, which most people have, you have the problem that the first 20 tests are okay, and you can find a little bit better the trace elements. But I don't care if I have zinc 5.1 or 5.2.
Right.
I need to take care to have a proper phosphate, calcium, magnesium, potassium, this level. And this new machine, which has a development of 10, are maybe 1-2% lower on the trace elements, but way better on all the others. And the biggest benefit is we can do 300 tests in one line, and we have the same quality, the same precision as we have from the first test to 300. On the blue one, due to this type, how it's constructed, the salt comes into the reactant chamber and stays there, and that creating issues which we have to calculate out. So if you make a graph, it goes down, and the rest of this you have to calculate. And that creating these different values what you have all the time. That's the problem, because it's only calculated. With the green machines, it's all the time the same, so we can argue.
Okay.
The software behind, it's very important. So we're creating an artificial intelligence who checked your parameters before, who checked every other parameters, and brings them proper in line. And then this test going to your support guys, and he do the interpretation because he knows, okay, which type of aquarium you have, how much it changes. Is that value relevant? Because many discussions on the market is that they say, I have a different value. And then they talk about earlier test was 5, now I have 3 on the trace element, which is still the same level, but still okay. So that needs why we do the interpretation. We have different type of machines meanwhile, also single machines to get better these fluoride and nitrate levels, which are especially made for aquarium water testing and not for seawater testing.
Talk about fluoride testing. Is this something I see that it's not always done by other manufacturers or test providers? Is it important in the aquarium water?
Absolutely. Fluorine is for the halogens, bromine, iodine, the same like magnesium for calcium and carbonate. It keeps the stability. It keeps the health for the course. You know, when we talk about the tanks, we see sometimes you have infections with aquaporin flatworms. As soon as you have your fluoride bromine level on top, the infection is way less because the course creating antiparasitic molecules in their body with sulfate, with strontium, and with fluoride. So you need also all the relations to understand why tanks is sometimes very healthy, why not. Fluoride testing is complicated. It's expensive. So because you need separate machines, and see what it's very, very difficult.
It works with a gas, a flame?
Yes, but there you have to dilute it. We buy a specific machine who do it with specific electrodes, but you have to prepare the water before. And after the electrode, it comes into a photometric system, and these both together then can create a very proper value that you find really out, and you can say 0.1, 0.2 milligrams is perfect on the dot. So, but this specific machine by itself costs a double amount of an ICP.
Okay.
So, but we detect also their organic compounds, we detect the nitrate, and give all that values then in the reef total.
So with the reef, the total, what is that different than the other tests? So this is your higher end. This will do fluoride and other. Okay.
Exactly, because they're all machines inside, and you have 98 different parameters. Also relations, organic compounds, whatever, which helps me mostly, or our staff or our trained certificate dealers. We train them how to interpret these levels.
Okay.
But we need to know what is the light, what is the type you take care of your aquarium, which type of food you use, which type of salt you use, and then they can say, hey, your aluminum level comes from this one. This is to recommend. Your nitrate level comes from this. This is to recommend. Sometimes elements are missing. Sometimes they are too much. That's why you need that interpretation. That's so important for the people. Like the doctor to you after you have a blood test. It's also the doctor, he looks completely. They say, do more sports, eat less carbs, you know, the typical things. And that's the same a little bit like what we do.
So Claude, when a customer gets his ICP test, whether it's from you or another manufacturer, they look at all of these individual parameters and those numbers. Should they base their dosing or their adding those elements back to the aquarium based on those numbers? how should they interpret the data?
So first, yes and no. It depends a little bit on which parameter we talk about. So if the calcium is too low, you have to dose the calcium level. If alkalinity, you have to dose it. I think that's quite clear. More difficult starting becoming when you have trace elements or relational trace elements. One typical thing should be calcium and strontium. The calcium could be on 500, it's a green mark, it's okay. The strontium maybe on 5, it's still green. So, and then people say it's okay.
Right.
In fact, what happens is that the calcium and the strontium needs to be in a relation together, like
a ratio.
In a ratio, exactly, yeah. Because then corals can grow. With 500 calcium and that low strontium, corals never grow. And that means all the metabolism, all the nutrients they take in, they cannot do that anymore, and it is taken in the aquarium with all the negative side effects.
Wow.
That's why it's so important that different ratios has to be on a certain level. The fluoride, which we talked before, if the fluoride is low, the iodine automatically raises up, because fluoride is controlling the iodine level. And swinging iodine level is the worst thing you can have, because that causes algae growth. Too low fluoride in connection with iodine causing issues on fish health, issues on parasites on the corals.
Wow.
Very strong. Same with sulfate, same with other ones. So we have a lot of ratios which plays a role and which is difficult if we say yes, dose everything in. That's the point what we especially say no. We have different graphs inside who told you exactly, okay, this is what you have to dose. These others wait for it. First bring the salinity sample in the right line, then the calcium, then the carbonate, and then all the others. So, and I can fully understand with 98 different parameters that this is complicated to read. For that, you have the, when the results coming in, you can go to the website. And the website included an artificial intelligence who tells you then exactly, now do this, now do this one, go to the next step.
So you're saying you have artificial intelligence now built into your test based on, but the customer probably needs a history of so many tests.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
It's 5 tests.
Okay.
Then the artificial intelligence can connect it together. And they can say, okay, now we have a history behind. And then they give you a little bit more information about what is the dose, and which time, and which days. So, but usually we don't go on this way, dose everything. So we start very simple from the beginning on, bring the salinity line. So how is the salinity compared to calcium, potassium, carbonate hardness, strontium. If that is done, we go to the halogens, the fluorine, iodine, and bromine levels, bring them in line. After that, we talk about the trace elements.
Okay.
The reason is, as long as the elements on the top, and so as our test is made that you work from top down, if on the top is not okay, you can change and you can put elements in how long you want, you will not have this effect. You need that to go from step down, and then you have the stability like natural seawater has naturally, and you don't losing so much elements in due to this all-time dosing there. And that you can read, and there's a knowledge base behind where it explains you every element, details. There's over 120 sites only about elements, what they do, why they do it, and on the other side, if they are relevant, if they make an issue, like aluminum or arsenic. Sometimes the tests show it, but our test tells you then, hey, it's under certain line, don't care about it, so you don't need to buy extra absorbers or whatever in this case.
What do you recommend? How should the customer start in terms of how many tests, how frequently, and then to be able to jump into that AI data? Maybe start 2 weeks, do a test, or 1 month? What do you recommend how they should start?
Also there depends a little bit. So if you have a tank with an issue, then I recommend make shortly 1 week by the next till the problem is solved. Then going to 1 month. Later it's okay if you do it every 3 months. If everything runs well, you have knowledge about, you see on your coral how it works, you can go every 3 months. if you start an aquarium and you want to follow it with the ICP tests, immediately you start at the first 4 weeks, you do 2 tests, and then every month, and after half a year, you can go up to 2 months and 3 months also.
Okay.
This gives you the history, and you can cover a little bit the swings at the beginning so that you see them.
Yeah.
If you wait too long, you don't see the swings, and then your reaction time is too low. The tests nowadays are not that expensive, so every coral costs usually more.
Yeah.
So if you save 1 coral, you have to test in, and you have not the issues then later in 1 or 1.5 years that you get some cyanobacteria or other algae stuff.
Yeah.
You can prevent it from beginning on if you follow the certain lines, if you follow the ratios, because specific ratios like nitrate and phosphate is a small tip also. It's about 1 to 100, and I can guarantee you, you will not have any algae in your aquarium. We have done 180,000 tests, and the AI showed everything who has algae,
Wow.
which were not, and you can see on this ratio, there's no algae.
Yeah.
Definitely not. So at the beginning, and if you have problems, it took some time, 2-3 months, to get it on this ratio, but then it's stable. That's okay.
This is an incredible tool if it's used correctly.
But you need
Really
to do
is.
it, so that's the point. So that's the only thing. That's also the reason why we don't have a lab in the US actually. The point is, it's not a problem to buy a machine, put it there, say somebody, hey, do the stuff in. The problem is that every day the machinery has to be calibrated and has to be all together. Due to the reason that we have them all together, we have 3, 4, 5 different type of machines. So one machine detects the phosphorus, the other machine takes the orthophosphate. And now we can compare these different levels between different method machines to know if they're correct or not. If I have all around the same machine with the same method, then it's not to test each other.
I see.
The transport time now, since you do it with CoralVue now, you collect all the samples, and that was a great step.
Yeah, that was a
Overall.
big thing. People ask, how long does it take me to get? So initially, you know, you were using like a fulfillment center, and it was the transit time to get to the fulfillment center. Then when they decided to send the test. So now, so people know, we have the test sent to CoralVue, and on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we ship to Germany. And the turnaround time, I mean, Claude, I see it's 2 days. I've been seeing the results once it leaves CoralVue.
Yeah,
So
that's
that
what
gives
we
you a
do
good
with the
idea.
FedEx stuff.
Yep.
Exactly. So we're creating a specific shipment with customs and all things that they know before. So, and due to that, since CoralVue we know what's coming in, and immediately when it arrives, it goes immediately into the machine. And due to the different type of barcodes which you can find on your test, and that's really important because we only see always this barcode. So in Europe, we have data protection, so we don't have any names on it. And this barcode is that what you activate the probe then, and so the test comes as fast as possible to your house, and as an email and in your laboratory database. There are 2 ways to get the amount what you need. The email by itself, the PDF, it's for fast, that you look fast on it when you're on journeys, when you're at work. You can have a faster look on it, it's okay. And if you want to have the details and the recommended dosing and everything what you have to do, you go on the website, and we especially don't do an app, so we don't have any update issues. You go on your website, you go on your account, and there is everything is marking in and explaining in words exactly what is to do and how you can solve this problem. If not, if you have no question, it's also not a problem. We have a knowledge database which explains every element and every relation. And if that is not enough for you, then, and hopefully we will start now soon, we have certified ICP supporters, which we do the training in Germany with them very deeply. We show them exactly the machines, every trick, they know what we know also. And you can go to these stores then, and they help you out because they have the same knowledge like we have in the lab.
Yeah.
And we choose people which have minimum of 10 years experience and has a coral farming or coral production. So they are not theoretical learning in the book, they are practical, and we give them this little bit more information from the background, direct from the lab, how to find out which element causes which problem and how can help you out. And so it's the fastest and the cheapest way to get the best results with your ICPs.
Absolutely. So, Claude, I want to talk to you now about a very controversial product in our industry, our hobby, and that's the salt that's being used. And everybody has this salt's the best, this salt's the worst. But when I got your salt, I was just amazed at how clean the salt mixed, how fast it cleared. The results were just incredible. I've used so many salts. I've been doing this since I'm 8 years old. I can't tell you how many different brands of salt I've mixed. I've seen some stuff in there that I'm ashamed that's even going back into our aquariums, from trash to just calcified pumps. I've seen it all. And then started using this product, your salt. It's just an incredible. Can you give us some type of education in terms of what goes into your salt, what makes it so different than others, and why we should use, you have just one salt, and you say to use that for fish only as well as for reef tanks.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
maybe you can explain to us a little bit about salt and what goes into this process of making it for our aquariums.
The salt is, like you say, a very emotional thing. So people get very fast angry if something is in the salt or goes not. And I think sometimes it's also misunderstanding how difficult it is to produce a sea salt.
It's not just some salt grinded up.
It's really, in my beginnings, I even thought this also. Because, and it's hard to explain because you open it and
it's just white.
And in fact, we have a white powder. Like it looks like always, know.
So all of them look the same.
How this could
you mix it, right?
Yeah, but I always try to explain it with beer. No, because with beer it's exactly the same. Every beer looks the same.
Yeah, they do.
And are they same?
No.
No. So, and 1,000 years ago, way longer, some very, very smart people creating a recipe for beer. And the funny thing is, even after 1,000 years, they make it not better. The recipe, which from beginning on, so very clean, 3, 4 things: a good water, a certain recipe, and that's it. And that's still today the best beer you can buy. And if you look on the breweries who do it on the old way and creating the whole power of the material they use and of the time they use, they have still today the best beer. And all the others who mixing some fancy stuff into the beer, it makes it better? No. And that's the miracle of the salt. The only thing what we do, and that's not the miracle, is that I get here, I say we have one salt, because there's one seawater, and they have to have everything in. Starting really from the sodium till to the end of specific elements which we need, even aluminum, even lithium or fluoride or bromide. All the things has to be in that amount.
Even for fish only.
Even for fish, sure. I don't make it for the fish. It causes to the bacterial system who cleans your water. The fish by itself is healthy as the bacteria are healthy.
Right.
So nobody makes a salt which has something in mind for the fish. Automatically the fish are healthy if you provide them that what they need. And that's what the bacteria need. Problem nowadays is the sources to get them. So there are some companies deciding to use evaporated sea salt. They have to clean it, they have to add some other minerals in, and they're creating a nice salt. But it can be sometimes change it or have high alkalinity, or sometimes it's a little bit dirt in, depending on the production process, because they take natural seawater out. And because that comes always from the coast. And you know how coastlines look like. It's not the same water like, let me say, 500 miles outside. So the next step is that we decide, or I decide to do that in a full synthetic way.
What does that mean?
That means that we don't use any natural salts which are outside to get. So from evaporation, desalination, or whatever they produce the salts nowadays. We have our salts from mines. And how deeper this mine is, how cleaner the salt is. So we have no microplastic 200 million years
Right.
ago. So you will not find them anymore. And how deeper it is, how more expensive it is to bring it up.
Ah,
So that's the point.
so you pay more to go deeper,
Yeah,
like a
but
well.
it's really, really clean. That's
Yeah.
like if you have a super good water for beer, you need a specific water for beer, and it's not easy to get it. It's
Right.
not the same like you can use tap water. So with tap water, try to make a beer. You can forget it. So, and that's the point. So the raw materials are very important. The second step is what we do is we mill the salt all to the same grain size, and then we have a specific mixing process, which not starting, put everything together, mix it, 2 minutes later you can sell it. So what we do with the salt is we mill it, we're creating specific trace element mixture in front, then we mix it in several steps all the time, and that prevents the same size. And the way of mixing prevents that the salt can, due to the transport, can...
The stratification, like it'll go in layers.
Exactly.
Right?
So, and that prevents that.
Okay.
So what we use then is the anti-caking, we use a specific one that you get a very fast and immediately clean water coming in. And this anti-caking, what we use, you can see on the ICP sometimes as iron, as manganese, but it comes from the anti-caking, which we have to do to protect the salt to getting blocked.
Okay.
But that goes out in the skimmer. It's not biologically available.
So you use a different anti-caking material than maybe some other manufacturers,
Yes.
or can you explain that?
Yeah, it's very simple. So normally it's like that. We have a carbonate-based one, so you can use it in the soil, but that's creating some issues with precipitations, and the water is not always that clean like I want.
Is that used just because it's cheaper, or?
It's the way how you get your raw materials.
Okay.
So if you have natural seawater, it's better you do it on that way. Or it's the way you do it on that way, and we use it the mine salt, so that's better you do it on that way.
Okay.
So, and for me, it's two things which makes, which is the important thing on that. First, I can control it. With the ICP and every of our salts, so we do 180 tests of ICP before a batch which comes out, which is about 1,600 pounds is one batch, and for this we do 180 tests. Every raw material, every different test, till it comes to the bucket. So that's why you can have a number on it, and you can see it, how is the quality of the salt after you buy it.
Wow.
So it's very simple. The second is that we have no experience in more than 35 years with that anti-caking stuff, and we know exactly that it will be removed immediately out of the skimmers, and it's not bioavailable. So bacteria cannot handle it. These molecules are way too long for them, so it's immediately removed. The third thing is now what I learned, and it's a great help for me, I can see exactly which salt is used in the ICP. So you know it, you know. And the second thing is I can see how long away is the last water change.
Wow.
And that gives me great results then, that I can see, okay, I know you make it between 2 and 3 days. I know exactly how to do the last water change, or you do it more than 1 week not. And that helps. It's amazing help to know when you do the interpretation of the tests.
Yeah.
You can see then do more water change to this one.
So just through your ICP testing, you're able to tell if somebody's not using your salt?
Yeah, absolutely. It's easy
Wow.
to see. So first is the relation of different elements, how they are in. And second, some of the companies like we do also have some specific elements in, which you can detect in ICP, which is not shown in the test. And there we know if it's my test, if it's my salt or not, because there's a specific level in.
Yeah.
And if you don't know it, you cannot mix it. So that's why we use that.
Okay.
So a very important thing about the salts is to handle with dangerous chemicals. So that's also, which is not in mind for the most people. Products like fluoride, lithium, bromine are expensive and toxic. When we do the mixing process, it's very important to protect our workers.
Okay.
Because fluorine salts and bromine salts and also some others are highly toxic. So, and when they playing around in the mixing station,
Right.
all the dust get out, they inhalate it, that makes them really ill. So we have to do that in controlled, protected areas with specific machines who take out the dust out, who filter the dust out, bring it back into the process. And the costs of these to protect all the workers and protect them later also the customers in the aquarium, cause that we are sure that we have the right and specific amounts on it, that protects then also you as later. It costs a few bucks more, I know it, but at the end, you know, it's like a car. So, and I'm really wondering sometimes why people invest a lot of money in the aquarium and then they buy a very cheap salt, which is like a very cheap tire on a sports car.
Yeah.
And you know, you will feel it very fast. That's not a good idea.
Yeah.
And so we go more on the base. That's also the reason why we have one salt and not 10 different ones.
Claude, when you talk about the price of salt, what the consumer is paying, what's the difference in somebody is paying $100 for a bucket of salt versus $50? Is it materials? The quality of the materials used?
It's material. Usually it's material
is there
or
different
production
grades?
process.
Is there different grades of materials like magnesium chloride, calcium chloride?
Yes, also. So there's so many different salts, so it's very hard to say it's exactly like that. So there are several things running around. Cost producing is protection of workers. Cost production is a good machinery to do really good salt. You come not under €1 million investment or dollars in this case to have the right machines who can mix that. Because you know, the problem what we have is that we have to mix. If you have 1 million parts of one, so it's $1 note in 1 million notes, and to mix it that it is completely mixed into the salt. And this is a really difficult process. Because the trace elements are so low inside, and the macro elements are so much, and then you have to mix everything. So you need really, really good machines, and they are not to get for cheap money.
I see.
But the most costs, it's not the transfer. Transfer is all the same, and the margin of the customers is all the same. It's a very simple thing. If we invest in a salt in a 20 kilo bucket, $5 more in material.
Yeah.
Some specific elements like fluoride, lithium, and that one, that they are all in. Due to the transfer price and the margin to your dealer, it is $20 more.
Yeah.
So that's the tax on it and whatever. And that means, so we invest a little bit more in the material, and we don't go out with pharmaceutical grades and other things, because this is not always a trustable source for good materials for reef aquariums. So we search very deep mines, and we use salts which is also allowed for make baby food.
Okay.
Which is in Europe a very specific thing, because in baby food it has to be, everything is forbidden, which is not allowed. So it's a funny thing that the first 2 years as baby you are protected. After then you can eat whatever you want.
So you're saying the sodium chloride that you use, the materials you use, are baby certified.
Yeah, it can be used for that. Exactly.
It's a certain level or grade of materials.
Yeah, it's another than pharmaceutical degrees, or some do it for, we have special salt for dialysis or something like that, but in this salt is only the potassium level control, because you don't want to have too much potassium in your bloodstream, so it kills your blood pressure. So, but that have nothing to do with that what we need for our corals.
Right.
And due to that reason, with the coral farm, every batch we use on our own farm, so we have the control under it, and I wanted the salt for the high-end SPS, and that's the goal why we use that type of salt. It's for SPS, for the reef aquariums in this case, and automatically it's also the perfect salt for soft corals, for clams, for fishes.
Yeah.
Because we look for the biology, that your filter's running, that all the parameters are nice, and that you don't get so much parasite issues or health issues with your corals. That's why we invest this money more in the elements and in the mixing process and in the milling, that you get this type of salts, and it's so fast clean, which shows you that it is extremely well balanced, that you don't have precipitations. And if you see another salt, you can see it. If you mix it, it's still turbid.
Yeah.
And all that what you see in turbid is particles, and the particles are then in your system and creating the depot.
Yeah.
And half a year later, you will have a lot of cyanobacteria and a lot of sludge in your systems, and you don't know why.
I see some of these salts, other manufacturers, with these incredibly high calcium and alkalinity numbers.
Yeah.
Is that any science behind that you've seen with the coral farm?
I don't.
Elevated, or you like natural?
I don't know why. For me, it's a miracle.
Yeah.
I have no idea for whatever reason this do. Because at the end, but it's a personal feeling of me. When I want to buy a beer, I want a beer. So, and I want the beer exactly like it has to be.
Yeah.
The same with the butter with the steak. So I don't want that in the steak. They put some things which I don't like.
Yeah.
And that's why I make the sea salt. That's also why it's called sea salt. It is seawater.
Seawater.
And we do exactly that, what is in seawater in, not less and not more.
Yeah.
So clean and everything in. That's it. That was the good.
Good materials, proper mixing, and good ratios.
And like I say, we need also to a little bit to protect our workers for that.
Yeah.
Because we see how in other countries sometimes they mix it, and I can tell you, these chemicals, they are on the list with dangerous goods, and that has reason for that.
I see.
And that small amount which is in the salt, it's not dangerous for us because the amount is small. But when you mix it and you have a few pounds of fluorine salts, and you have the
Floating
dust,
in the air. Yeah.
I can tell you, I will run away and close the company if that happens, because then cancer is 100% on it. And this is, I think today it's not possible to treat workers and your staff and your partners with that risk on such chemicals. So you have to do it proper, even if it costs a little bit more. But
So you practicing
important.
ethical standards. And
Yeah, we are in Germany producing.
Absolutely.
So we have to do by law. We be controlled every day, and we pay for this all the time. So in Germany, you can't do that. Forget it. So you go in jail for that thing. So
it really is a great product, though, Claude. I love it, and yeah, congratulations on making something so great for our industry.
Thanks a lot.